Welcome to this Body Slam Progress Atlas Tournament special. We are joined today by a man who makes his return to Progress after 6 years. He was part of the original Atlas tournament to crown the inaugural champion. He is back to claim the prize he was unable to capture in 2016. He is the Beast of Belfast, Big Damo. How are you doing?
Doing very well, thanks very much. I enjoyed that introduction, actually. You want to do that again? Put me over a little bit more. That sounds fantastic.
Well, I could mention all the promotions that you have worked for over the period because there's a lot.
There's been a couple.
And we are, of course, TNT, the Great British Wrestling podcast for Great British Wrestling. I am your host, the Great British Tag Team, Mr. Andrew Mwandi to most, joined by, as always, by Big Daddy Dan, Mr. Daniel Allen, just Dan for short. Not the biggest man on the show today.
Not by a long shot. We have got a proper big man and a proper big man wrestler. And it is great to see how British wrestling is having the resurgence in the heavyweights. And I think we can safely say you are pretty much at the peak of that mountain.
Well, thankfully, like we went through a little period where heavyweight wrestling was maybe not. I guess like British wrestling was kind of originally based off heavyweight wrestling, and then obviously it was more popularized by the smaller wrestlers who were so talented and everything else. But that little resurgence, I guess, towards the mid 2000s, whatever, like Dave Mastiff, myself, and a bunch of others. And now, you look at the NXT UK, you've got your Rampage Browns, the Coffees and stuff like that. It's fantastic that there is now this little batch of guys coming through who are all happily weighing a little bit more. And personally, for me, it's great because when I was coming through, I remember when I first was kind of really breaking in, I was a lot smaller. I was maybe about 200 pounds or something like that. And as I was getting bigger, I was wondering, is anybody going to really buy this as an image? Are they going to buy me being big and hairy and everything else? And then suddenly everybody's like, oh, yes. And it really helped my career. And thankfully it went really well from there. But there was a period of doubt. I was like, oh no, how will this work? And then suddenly, like myself, Mastiff, the Coffees, everybody else, we're all over the place. So thankfully it did take off.
Actually, all those names you just mentioned, Mastiff, Coffee, Rampage, were actually all part of the original Atlas tournament along with yourself. Do you feel like you've come a little bit full circle back to Progress to claim this prize now?
Absolutely. In a way, one of the coolest experiences for me since I left WWE has been getting to see, first of all, new faces, and also the people who I knew from before, like friends and essentially family, people who I grew up with as part of wrestling. So this whole experience has been incredible because you're getting to see that next generation and how good they are coming through. But I'm also getting to see the people who helped me and the people who helped me get to a level that was good enough to get onto television. So it's been an incredible experience. And as you said about full circle, yeah, absolutely, because honestly, I remember the feeling when I first debuted in Progress. I think it was in 2014 or 2015, and I remember looking around and seeing that locker room at the time, and just my mind was blown because it was literally I think one of the main problems in wrestling at the time was we didn't have big companies, so budgets were lower, so you'd only see 2 or 3 lads who were at the peak of British wrestling, or whatever way you want to put it, and then the likes of Progress and ICW and Rev Pro were starting to take all the best from every corner of Britain and Europe even. And I remember walking into that locker room for the very first time. I think it was maybe Super Strong Style 16, maybe the first one, maybe that was 2015. The first one I did, sorry, I think it was 2015. And I remember looking at everybody who I respected from every part of Europe was there, and I just thought, wow, this is incredible. And I feel like that's what British wrestling is getting closer to again, because there's so much young talent coming through right now. I mean, since I came back in October in Ireland, Scotland, England, whatever, and I've been able to see there's a lot of good talent coming through right now, and this is one of those, it kind of feels almost like that 7 years ago feeling, where everything's just like a touch away from greatness. And it's exciting to see how everybody's kind of coming together again. Fans are coming into buildings again, and we're getting to see some incredible matches. So I'm personally excited, for myself, sure, but I'm also excited to see for everybody else, for the next crop and the matches that are going to be around me. So one of the coolest things for me is getting to see guys who are just, I maybe saw 7 years ago first couple of matches, and now they're incredible. So.
Well, your opponent in the first round of the Atlas tournament is one of the young up-and-comers and somebody who has been having an absolutely phenomenal 2022 so far. Luke Jacobs, how are you feeling ahead of your match?
Yeah, well, I outweigh him by about 120 pounds or whatever, so I think he's got into the Atlas tournament on a technicality. But I know that, like, insofar as his heart, you can't doubt his heart. The fella's, I know who he came through with, I know who he trained with and stuff like that. So, he's got like a heart of a fighter, and I know that it's going to be a difficult fight regardless. I saw him fight at Rev Pro actually at the end of, I think it was November, December, and there's definitely a hell of a talent there. But his only problem is he's still new to this, and there's going to be a lot that my 18 years experience might be a bit much for him. He might be going for those Germans and stuff like that. Might find difficulties getting me over. So, but we'll see. I'm looking forward to get in there with him. And listen, if he manages to get past me, then he could win this thing. Because let's face it, I am the number one guy in this tournament, and it's going to be interesting whether I come up against himself, if I get into the second round against my former tag team partner Axel Tischer, or if I make it all the way to my former trainee Joe Hendry in the final, or even Big Jonah, who I beat multiple times in NXT. Whatever happens, I am definitely the favorite. And if he beats me, then he could go on and win this thing.
You mentioned that match, actually. I think it was Huntingdon, because you faced Ricky Knight Jr. and he took on Francisco Akira, because we were there that night, Dan.
We were indeed.
That was a great match. You mentioned Axel Tischer there. Is this the first time you're back on a show alongside, just because I know he's been on shows with Eric Young, but have you managed to be on a show with either of them as yet?
Actually, no. So this will be the very first time that Axel and I have met since NXT. Literally, his last fight in NXT was against me. So it'd be great to get in there and see him again. Axel's one of my best friends on the planet. I genuinely adore him, his wife, his kid, and it's brilliant that he's killing it so much right now in Germany for WXW. He's got himself in the shape of his life. He looks incredible. His wrestling was already incredible, and I know that he's going to use this as a perfect opportunity to get in there and absolutely destroy it. Because, listen, we didn't really get to see the peak of what Axel Tischer could be in WWE, but I know for a fact that he's righting that wrong right now. I'm meeting people who are like, oh, I saw Axel Tischer. I saw, Axman. I saw him at a show, and he was incredible. I was, yeah, of course. I know he's incredible. I got to see him every week, and I know how good he is. But sadly, for the television audience, it wasn't always the same. It's a 4-minute segment or whatever else. You're not going to see how good he is. We got a couple of brilliant breakouts, like especially against the likes of AOP. So I'm really excited to see him really in this tournament, because he would be a massive difficulty for me, because he knows everything I do. So, but I'm a huge fan of him as a person, a huge fan of him as a wrestler, and I'm actually excited to see his match at Progress.
I saw him have a match against Luke Jacobs earlier this year, and it was a fantastic 25-minute absolute slugfest of a match. Absolutely love that. And he's got a difficult draw as well in this first round against Warren Banks.
I'm looking forward to seeing it. Listen, I've heard good things about Warren Banks. He's one of the only few lads who I haven't actually been on shows with since I've came back. But like that's nothing against him. I know for a fact that he's got a lot of great praise across Britain right now, and I know that there's something there. So I'm very excited to see how he gets on with Axeman. And again, if he manages to get something on Axe, if he can beat Axeman, then who knows? It could be another dark horse for the tournament.
So you mentioned, obviously, Jonah. He's also competed on New Japan. You've just recently made your debuts for New Japan Strong against Tomohiro Ishii as well. How's that been? What's it been like being back on that in this independent scene? Is it different to what it was?
So I only wrestled a couple of tours in America. So my knowledge of the US independence was largely based on, tape trading and then YouTube and things like that much later. But when I was actually on the scene, then, yes, I got to meet a bunch of guys who I ended up in NXT with at the same time. But so it's been interesting getting back onto the independence on this side of the pond. I'm here in Orlando right now, because it's literally, New Japan Strong is almost like a bit of a super indie right now, kind of a little like early Ring of Honor in a way, because they're literally just choosing anybody from everywhere. And it's been incredible, because I'm seeing all these guys who I've worked with either through my independent journey or through WWE. and then, or even from England and whatever else. So it's been an incredible roster, and getting to see the likes of Jonah and Shane Thorne the other day was awesome, because they're two lads I spent a lot of time with. Jonah and I wrestled a bunch as well, so it was great to see him. He's killing it right now. He's back with TMDK, and I've got every belief that Jonah's going to surprise a lot of people this year, because he's a super talent. He looks incredible as well right now. He seems to be really getting his act together, and I think that if him and I do manage to meet each other in the final, then it'll be a hell of a fight, because I know for a fact it always annoyed him that that I got the best of him in our early encounters. So I know he'd do his very best to get everything back. So I get that. I get that.
You're doing a lot of traveling at the moment between all these shows. You're a very wanted man. How are you finding the traveling itself? Because I'm not a small guy. I'm not as big as you. And I can find those plane trips are damned uncomfortable. How are you finding travel?
Honestly, there might be the occasional time I'm like miserable as hell, because it might just be that touch too busy and whatever else. But I've been generally lucky so far. I've kind of figured out my niche, how to get myself together, what way is most comfortable. I'll probably never sleep more than 2 hours on a flight, so that's just me, no matter how long the flight is. But I generally have my trusty tablet with me, so I can at least play Football Manager if I have to. So, and that'll help while away the hours as many as possible. I think my record is, I think I played for about 8 hours once, and then I think I was cramped, just sat like this the entire time. But needs must and everything else.
Jonah actually just made a tweet about having to travel himself, saying something very similar about comfortability. Now, the Progress Atlas title has had quite a prestigious lineage of champions. In fact, only 5 people have ever held the championship, starting with Rampage, Matt Riddle, Walter, Trent Seven, and Doug Williams. How would it feel to have your name amongst those?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think it's so funny. You rhymed off 5 people who I really enjoyed fighting myself. So pretty much all of them. No, it'd be incredible. Listen, Doug Williams is the literal ambassador for modern British wrestling. I grew up such a huge fan of his, and then when I got to wrestle him, I got to hang out with him. And Doug was always there if I ever asked for advice and stuff like that. So to be the next champion after Doug Williams is a massive honor. And as I said before about Rampage Brown is maybe my favorite wrestler on planet Earth. I loved wrestling him. I loved watching him. I think he was incredible. And then everybody else who's there, all great wrestlers, great what they did. Look what Walter's doing right now on television. Sky's the limit for him. Trent Seven. Trent is one of the biggest characters I've ever met outside the ring, and in the ring, I think I would have had to hit him with a bus to keep him down. He's just one of those type of lads. So no, honestly, it's a hell of a lineage, and then for me personally to be a part of that would be incredible. And listen, I said before, I never managed to get things going in Progress. Everywhere I went, every corner of the globe I've went to have been a success, but for some reason I just couldn't get over that line of Progress. Maybe that I just got inside my own head, whatever it is. Maybe it was the wrong time of day. I don't know. So honestly, I need to right or wrong when it comes to this weekend. So I'm going in there with a fire in my belly, a monkey in my back, whatever euphemism you want to say, because I want to go in there and I want to win the whole damn thing.
If you do go on to win the whole damn thing, Rampage offered an open challenge at every show that he attended, and Matt Riddle took the belt around the world and defended it in various promotions in America and so forth. If you were to win, would you do something similar?
If I was to win, I would make the Progress Atlas title a world championship, because I would literally defend it all across the world. In the next few months, I'm going to be announcing where I'm going to be going in the next while, so I'd happily bring it to those countries. I'd happily bring it all across America, bring it all across Europe as well. And it would become the World Atlas Championship. Listen, what Matt Riddle did with it was incredible. Matt Riddle is one of the best wrestlers on planet Earth, and I was very lucky to get in there with him and somehow managed to put him away. But listen, with Rampage Brown, even the idea of an open challenge, I'd be more than happy to do so. The only thing is I'd probably raise the weight limit.
Yes, because it's 205. When they set that limit, they were having a bit of a jest with WWE, because that was the way of Progress back then. So if you were to set a heavyweight limit, what would your weight limit be then for the
I
Atlas
think I'd go for the 240, 250 mark, right? And I've seen that with Joe Hendry. Joe Hendry's one of the lads who's really like came on leaps and bounds in the last few years. He's up to about 260 right now. He looks phenomenal. And he was always one of those lads who was incredibly strong, obviously with the amateur wrestling and the judo background. So it'd be interesting to see how he is right now at 260. You know, will he still have the same gas tank that he had before, or will he have even more strength than ever before? You know, so for me personally, I think 240, 250 is the perfect weight limit. Me sitting at my 300-pound mark works out great for me. I'll always outweigh everybody else.
We recently saw Joe Hendry take on Axel Tischer, and he definitely outweighed Tischer at the time, and he definitely kept going. So he has still got his speed.
I'm glad to hear. Listen, Joe's an incredible talent. As I said before, like he represented Britain in the Commonwealth Games for wrestling. So it's one of those things that doesn't get talked about enough, to be honest. You know, everybody talks about Joe's videos and his entertaining entrances and stuff like that. Yes, but as an actual legitimate athlete, you know, judo black belt and went to the Commonwealth Games with the British wrestling is incredible, and it's a feat that there's so few people can actually can boast. So I know for a fact that in that ring, Joe is as legitimate as they come, but he's got the entertainment quality to back it up. So.
Oh, yes.
So obviously Joe Hendry is on the other side of the brackets, and you mentioned you long-time friendship and you'd like to see it. Is he the one you would want to face in the final, or is it Ricky Shane Page or Jonah? Who is it who you would like to possibly meet in that final?
Oh, Ricky Shane Page is one of the guys who I actually never have wrestled yet. He's one of the lads who we always kept missing each other. He'd be on a show one week, I'd be on that same show the week after, or whatever. But listen, you know, Ricky's one of the lads who, you know, got himself into incredible shape. He's done a hell of a job. You know, for somebody who has such a varied background, when it came to like ultra violence, but also is really good in ring. You know, I think he's almost got like a bit of everything under his belt, so it'd be so interesting to match up with him. But listen, Joe Hendry, like I trained Joe Hendry from his first day inside a wrestling ring. I got to see his growth, and like it's been awesome watching him from afar, because you know Joe's a very confident guy. And that's been one of the things that was both a nightmare and a pleasure. So being able to watch him develop has been absolutely incredible, and I really hope the best for Joe. And if I do square off against him, I know for a fact it won't be the same as it was 5-6 years ago. I know that he's got a lot more to his arsenal. He's wrestled the likes of Kurt Angle. He's been all over the world. He's been with TNA, Ring of Honor. He's literally done everything. It wouldn't surprise me if he rocks up anywhere in the world, because he's that good. I think his timing has always been against him, insofar as, you know, with a bit of luck here and there with the pandemic and things like that for Ring of Honor. But I know that he is desperate right now. He's maybe the hungriest fighter in that tournament. Which is interesting, because I know there's a lot of hungry people, but I know that like Joe definitely has a chip on his shoulder, and he's really trying to do something about it. But as I said before, if he gets by Ricky Shane Page, he has to fight Jonah, and I know that Jonah is on fire right now. What he's doing right now all across America is he's killing it. Like his match at PCO, they almost murdered each other for Impact Wrestling. So it'd be really exciting to get in there with Jonah again. Jonah and I, you know, big fan of him as a person, big fan of him as a talent, and there's nobody I'd like to hit more than Jonah. So, you know, I'd definitely like to get in there with him. So yeah, absolutely. Listen, there's a great bracket on that side. It's going to be interesting to see who walks away. It could be any of the three lads. But on my side of the bracket, listen, I've already said there's a storied rivalry ready and waiting with Axel Tischer. And if it doesn't happen at Progress, then we're going to make it happen somewhere. So whatever happens, whether myself or Axel get through to the next round, or if we don't, that's fine, because one day we will get a chance to smash each other. But let's hope it happens in Progress, and let's hope it happens this weekend.
I definitely want it to happen this weekend, because I'm going to be there and I want to see that face to face. I really want to see that match. A little bit of news outside of Progress that's just been announced today, and I think it's worth asking your opinion on this. WWE have finally announced that they're going to have a main pay-per-view show in the UK. In Wales, Principality Stadium.
Well, I think, like, I always knew it as the Millennium Stadium, you know, because I'm a big soccer fan, whatever. I think it's brilliant, actually. Like, I know that like some people are getting negative about it on internet, but that always seems to be the way with absolutely everything that gets posted on the internet. Somebody's going to be mad about something for some reason. I think it's absolutely amazing. Listen, that's an 80,000 capacity stadium. It's brilliant for the rugby. It's brilliant for the football. It'll only be brilliant for fans of wrestling. You're going to get all the top stars at WWE, and hopefully it means they can bring a lot of the British ones. For the likes of Drew Galloway, for Nikki ASH, and everybody else. It'll be amazing because the atmosphere they'll create will be awesome. I'm sure everybody's disappointed it's not WrestleMania or something like that. But if they kill this, if they make this so good, then why won't they bring Mania there one time? So go out there, have the hell of a time, and hopefully it comes to Wembley next. Hopefully it goes to Croke Park in Dublin. Hopefully it goes everywhere. That'd be great for the industry. Maybe Hampden Park in Glasgow. All these are possibilities if this one works out. So hopefully everybody can get behind it, and it's great for the industry.
Indeed. What do you think it takes for the British industry to get more profile up to where they can do, maybe not a stadium, but at least an arena?
Well, I know that OTT just put 2,000 people in the National Stadium in Dublin, which is amazing coming out of COVID. And what they've done is they've just really pushed through as best they can. They get their best stars. Every show that they have, they try to put on as good as they can. And that's what made us great in the first place. That's what got British wrestling renaissance over the 2000s to 2010s, was like literally people coming in trying to put the very best against each other. Like I told you, the first time I walked into that Progress locker room and I saw this incredible talented locker room, and I was actually like, it was the most hyped up I've ever been for a match, I think, out of all seriousness. So I think it has to be like that again. Yes, I know there's going to be loyalties to people. I know that there's going to be difficulties because such and such is going to cost more. People are going to have to come from different towns across, and that's fine. But if you gamble on that, then you're going to win in the end. And I get it. I know, like, I've been a promoter for a very short time. I understand how difficult it is, but you need the promoters to step up and get the best of the best all across Britain and Europe. And then you will get your rise and you will get your people in your building. OTT just proved it. OTT just did exactly that. They took the very best from Ireland, the best they could around Europe, and they brought in stars from across America, and they put 2,000 people in an arena. And that can be copied by the likes of ICW, who once put 6,000 people in the Hydro. It can be copied by Progress, who put 2,000 people. Was it in Wembley Arena? They put
and Ali Pali as well.
Ali Pali. So listen, it has happened. 6 years ago, 5 years ago. It can easily happen again. Wrestling goes in cycles. You put the best people like you possibly can in those rings, the fans will come out and watch it.
So obviously the Atlas tournament is going to be one of the biggest tournaments of the year, but around the world, are there any other tournaments that you would like to be part of? All Japan, New Japan, WXW 16 carat next year. What tournaments are you looking at?
Listen, I will happily walk into absolutely any tournament across the world, but if I had to choose just one, it would be the G1. Right, that is something I had a chance to go to, and I had to turn it down. And I want to make that. I want to make that right. I want to make that wrong right as best I can. Because listen, my entire life, I've been a massive fan of Japanese wrestling. I got into it in the 90s. I was influenced by the likes of Misawa, Jun Akiyama, Kawada, Kobashi. There's so many people I've always been a fan of. And then the more recently, Tanahashi, Nakamura had one of the best fights I've ever seen, the G1 25-year anniversary climax. One of the best matches I've ever seen. And listen, so I always wanted to get there. It was something I always wanted to do. And I'm going to do everything in my power to make that happen the next couple of years.
That'd be awesome to see you in the G1. There's some big lads over there that I'd love to see you clashing with. Anything else, Dan?
I think we have covered a lot about this Progress show. I am really happy to have had you on, Damo. I haven't fanboyed when I've been doing this yet, but this is the first time I've been really over the moon to have.
It's the ginger beard, isn't it? Though?
It really is. I've got serious beard envy at the moment. Now, my question: your entrance music. What is it that you are specifically using at the moment, and what is it that made you select?
So I'll be using a different music with Progress. Sadly, we couldn't get around the copyright issues with related to WWE. But my actual music is made by David Grimison. He was the former he's a massively talented musician. The song itself is called Belfast Blitz. I'll be releasing it shortly. Like I'm a little bit behind myself. I should have got it up probably at the end of last year, but I'll be releasing it shortly so everybody can actually hear it. It's an incredible. Honestly, it's a bit of a love interest. It was created for when I first went back to NXT in 2019. We made this this song with David, him and myself. I got to write the lyrics. It was, and he did this incredible job rapping it. David's been all over the world. He used to tour with Limp Bizkit, and he works with Killswitch Engage and things like that. So all these bands that I've listened to like for years, and like we call him Div. Div was working with them, and Div he did like my. He did music for me previously with ICW years and years and years ago, and I know that he's done a bunch for AEW. He's done a bunch for New Japan, and I think he's done a bunch for the WWE a couple of years ago and stuff like that as well. So he's absolutely incredible, and he was a pleasure to work with. I had this crazy idea. I'm a big fan of Mine Heart's Brent by Rammstein. Is this utterly epic violin rock, heavy rock song, and I was like, I couldn't get it out of my head, so I gave it to Dave, and I was like, Dave, is there any way you can do something as cool as this, but like, in your way and with rap music? Because I'm a massive rap fan, always have been. I love the anger that comes with it. I've been a Rage Against the Machine fan since like literally I understood what music was. So it was great to try and get something that kind of brought everything that I really liked. And he's also been able to rap about, my past in Belfast. And he mentions a bunch of stuff in there that probably, is questionable. But at the same time, it means a lot to me. So, I really appreciated it. And I loved working with him because I was able to develop it. And then once I did leave WWE, I got back in touch with them and we redid it all over again. We weren't able to use that tune in WWE at the time. Again, copyright issues and things like that. So I was able to touch it up, fix bits, change the intro. I was very happy with the final result because Dave is literally a musical genius. He's on Twitch, David Lopan. You can actually watch him create music, and it is one of the most incredible. I sat watching him from memory, literally do. I think it was the Saw theme music. He was just doing it for a laugh for himself, and he did it all from memory. And I was like, that's just something I can't fathom. And I played drums for years. I've got a drum kit right behind me here. I don't know if you can see. And so when I meet people who are super talented musicians, it just kind of blows my mind because like I'm about as average a drummer as it gets. I don't think I've ever been better than that.
There's a wonderful new film that's just come on Netflix yesterday, all about a heavy metal drummer. It's called Metal Lords. It's just come out. Absolutely brilliant. You will love that. Final question then. Awesome. Where can we find your merch?
So right now on prowrestlingtees.com/Damo I have 3 t-shirts available, but I will be releasing some in Britain especially. I've got a huge line of shirts that I'm going to be bringing to Britain, not on this run, but on the next couple of runs that I'll be coming. And I've got some really cool t-shirts that are going to be British specialties and European specialties. So I'll be doing that very shortly. You can also find me on Twitter, Instagram @Damo Mackle. I try to make it really simple, really specific. Damo Mackle for everything, whether it's Pro Wrestling Tees or Cameo or whatever else. And also I'm going to be Twitch streaming again under @GreatBlackOtaku. That's a friend of mine, and myself and Shane Thorne are going to be streaming there as much as possible, doing some terrible video gaming. So that's where you can find me right now. But generally, everything is @Damo Mackle.
Excellent. Well, make sure you get yourselves down to the Dome in Tufnell to see Big Damo in action this weekend on the 17th and 18th. Progress Chapter 130 and Chapter 131 are now available on the on-demand service Demand Progress. So go check them out beforehand. And remember, folks, don't feed the trolls.